You're listening to Emerson Witner's NXT Report on the Angry Marks Podcast Network.
And welcome to the second ever NXT audio update here on AngryMarks.com. I am your host, Emerson Witner, formerly of the written version of the NXT review, which I did for about 4 years. But it's time for me to go all audio, and so I am here. We did our first show last week. I believe we got about 150 listeners, which I think is great. And so hopefully tonight we do just as many, if not more. Now, for those of you who don't know me and don't recognize the name, I am the host of the mildly successful Wrestling Outsiders podcast. We do our shows every Wednesday night at 10 p.m. Eastern, including this evening or yesterday, depending on when you're listening to this right now. We reviewed Royal Rumble 2007 and debuted a new segment called This Week in Wrestling History, along with a look at some really bad promos. All 43 of our past episodes can be heard right now on blogtalkradio.com/Wrestling Outsiders, or by subscribing to us on iTunes or downloading our RSS feed. Our 43 episodes include live pay-per-view recaps and interviews with some great people in the wrestling business, including Brian Alvarez, Stevie J, R.D. Reynolds, R.J. Brewer, and Antonio the Promise Thomas. So please, check us out. Tonight's NXT episode was the go-home show to NXT TakeOver Rival, which is next Wednesday night, 8 p.m. Eastern, for 2 hours on the WWE Network. And obviously these shows were rushed to get angles set for the 11th. We'll go through here tonight. And by the way, we'll be back here next Wednesday night. In fact, the Wrestling Outsiders podcast will take over AngryMarks.com when I'm joined by my brother Brian, who will, for an entire full-blown, in-depth NXT TakeOver review next Wednesday night, right here on AngryMarks.com. The show started with the return of Emma to NXT. She's, as a lot of us know, she has been out for 6 months since she got caught shoplifting an iPod or an iPad case. Not even an iPad or an iPhone, and a case to her device. And here in her first match in NXT in months and months and months, she did a very quick job to Carmela. Carmela, of course, is the lady of Enzo Amore and Colin Cassidy's, and to be quite honestly, she's the worst thing to happen to this act since when Enzo broke his leg, which caused Colin to go as a single for 6 months. The fans chanted they wanted blue pants, making reference to Ed in San Antonio's friend Leva Bates, who upset Carmela a few weeks ago and was never seen again. Emma did get in all of her spots, including the dilemma, but she got locked in Carmela's head scissors, and Carmela ended her losing streak at 1. Next Wednesday night, NXT TakeOver Rival. I'll go up and down the card here in just a few minutes. And people thought my idea of calling it NXT TakeOver Blood versus Water was a bad idea. Oh well. In the semifinals of the number one contenders tournament, Neville pinned Baron Corbin. The winner of this tournament will get a title shot at some random point in the future. I'm sure Tyler Breeze is still waiting for his real title shot from last May. This match was probably the longest Baron Corbin match ever. In fact, if you added up all of Baron Corbin's matches that he's had since his re-debut back in September, this might actually be longer than all of them put together. Not that it went terribly long, it went about 5 minutes. And it was I thought it was a very good match for what it was. Corbin did hit a move that was a combination curtain call and brain buster. It somehow looked both more impressive and less impressive than it sounds in your head when you think about it. The finish saw Neville go for a dive over the top rope, but he got caught by Corbin, Corbin dropped him on the guardrail and threw him back into the ring. And with the referee's back turned, Bull Dempsey ran down. I don't know what happened, but they never showed what Bull did. We were told he threw Corbin into the post, so I don't know if they just somehow didn't film it or if it was just so horrible that they couldn't even air it. Hopefully it's not the latter. And so once Corbin got back in the ring, Neville won with the red arrow. Bull ran out of the arena, so no one, Neville nor the referee saw him. It wasn't, they didn't set it up anyway as the start of a Neville heel turn. Sami Zayn did a pre-tape promo talking about how Kevin Owens is a master manipulator who somehow backed his way into a title match. They then announced that next week it would be Bull Dempsey and Baron Corbin in a no disqualification match. Their prior two matches went a combined 3 minutes, and Baron won both of them clean. So why do we need this third match? Damned if I know. Bayley defeated Becky Lynch. And personally, I was dreading this match, as most people who have been listening know. I am not the biggest fan of Becky Lynch, and I'm especially not a fan when these two girls wrestle each other. The results, more often than not, are disastrous. But this one, wasn't too bad. They didn't go very long. They kept it simple. And the whole match was Becky working over Bayley's injured knee until Sasha Banks came down, which literally was the cue for Bayley to go berserk and make a comeback. Bayley smashed Becky's knee against the mat and slapped on the half crab, Bayley showing that she's no Lance Storm, as Becky had almost no problem getting the ropes. When Becky rolled outside, Sasha suddenly thought that this was a lumberjack match as she picked up her best friend and threw her right back into the ring. And Becky stood up, got hit with the belly-to-Bayley suplex, and Bayley picked up the win. After the match, the Mega Powers exploded, with Becky shoving Sasha down on her ass. And Charlotte walked out, stood on the ramp, and just stared at everyone with her arms crossed, looking like that mother who does not approve of what her children are up to. Kevin Owens admitted that he was never going to sign the contract last week until he got a title match. So he pissed off Zayn enough that Zayn insisted on the match. Solomon Crowe, it turned out, by the way, for those who listened last week, Solomon Crowe is the person interrupting the NXT broadcasts, and so I guess he is going to be doing his hacker gimmick. And it was kind of weirdly timed this week as they were doing the go into commercial where they said up next it would be Finn Balor versus Hideo Itami, and that's when they had a little Solomon Crowe takeover of the screen. And honestly, it's done almost too subtly, because if you're not really paying attention, and who really is paying attention during the throw to commercial break, you never notice it's happening. But we'll see how it plays out. I don't want to give it too much crap until we actually see it happen. Devin Taylor walked up to Tyler Breeze backstage. Tyler's just standing there doing whatever, and Devin asked Tyler what's he going to do now that he's not in the tournament. Tyler, who lost the first match of the first round about 4 weeks ago, Devin's just getting around to now asking him what he's going to do. Tyler said he plans on watching the tournament very closely. Hey, I remember I watched the G1. I watched, 110 matches in 11 days. And so the least Tyler can do is watch the 7 matches of the number one contenders tournament. You might learn something. Main event of the show. Finn Balor beat Hideo Itami in one of the best 12-minute matches you are ever going to see and forget ever happened within a month. Adrian Neville sat in on commentary for this match. About a year ago, Adrian Neville cut this horrible, ridiculous scripted promo about how he talks like he has a mouthful of marbles and no one understands what the hell he's talking about. Well, tonight, sitting on commentary, like, it was hard to understand what the hell he was talking about. There's a self-fulfilling prophecy there by the writer of NXT. I forget the man's name, but he got votes for Best Booker this year in the Observer Awards. I think his decision to put Neville here on commentary may have lost him votes for next year. But outside of that, this was just an amazing 12 minutes. If this was on TakeOver, people would remember it for 3 or 4 months. If these two had 5 more minutes, this would have been a match of the year. And it's too bad no one's going to remember this a month from now. Chances are next week, the 2 main event matches are going to be so good that you're just not going to remember this match even happened 2 weeks from now. But still, it's on the WWE Network. The WWE Network is free this month. Go and watch NXT for the love of Pete. It was just amazing. At the finish, Hideo went for the go to sleep. Finn elbowed out. Hideo kicked him hard in the head, so Finn hit the Pele kick. Balor let Hideo kick and chop Finn's head off, and so Finn didn't stop when he went for his flying drop kick across the ring, and Hideo took one heck of a bump into the turnbuckles. It's like these two, I never saw them wrestle each other before. I assume they've wrestled each other before because they were just, and yes, two guys who are both really good wrestlers can have a really good match even if they've never faced each other before, but they knew each other too well to have never faced each other before, and I'm sure there's probably a bunch of people sitting there listening to this right now and went, of course, you idiot, they've wrestled before. They wrestled at this show and that show, and I apologize. I'm a new fan to Japanese wrestling. I will catch up on all this stuff, I promise. But for now, I sound like an idiot. Finally, Balor won with a double foot stomp. After the match, Balor picked Tommy up and shook his hand. After they stared at each other from 50 feet away, Balor and Neville shook hands, and that was the rest of the live portion of the show. But the show actually ended with just a really, really good video package building up Sami Zayn versus Kevin Owens, showing pictures of them not growing up together, but traveling together as wrestlers for 10 years plus. They didn't show any footage of ROH or anything else like that, but they basically told you these two have been friends and partners for years and years and years, and they were enemies as well. And honestly, this video package, if this was a pay-per-view and they were asking you to spend $40 on it, this show would probably get more buys than Fastlane would. Not that that's probably saying much, but yeah, that's what it's going to be. So that was NXT. Next week, it is NXT TakeOver Rival. And let's go down the card here from bottom to the top. Wesley Blake and Buddy Murphy defending their newly won tag titles against the Lucha Dragons. It's gonna be a tag match. It's not their place to have the 4-star match. I don't even know if Wesley Blake and Buddy Murphy could even have that match if they tried. However, their place is going to be there to have a nice, fun little match there. And, they're probably going to start the show, and it's going to be a nice, brisk pace and get everything off in the right way. Bull Dempsey versus Baron Corbin in a no disqualification match. Dave reported in the Observer that they're thinking of giving Bull Dempsey a makeover and giving him a new gimmick. And even if they weren't, it seems like it's going to be another Baron Corbin win, probably again in 2 minutes. The 4-way, Charlotte, Sasha Banks, Bayley, Becky Lynch for the women's title. I said I had doubts before Charlotte and Bayley at TakeOver Fatal 4-Way. I said I had doubts before Charlotte and Sasha at TakeOver R Evolution, and watching Bayley and Becky Lynch every time they've had to wrestle, I doubt this match is going to be any good, but I've been proven wrong so many times with the women of NXT on these shows that if this match is, a 3.5-star match, I would not be surprised. And if it's a half-a-star cluster frick, I would not be surprised either. Then we get to the two main events. The two matches that and these are probably going to be the last two matches. So take an hour and 10 minutes out of your life next Wednesday night, about 8:50 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, turn on the network and watch Adrian Neville versus Finn Balor in the finals of the number one contenders tournament, and then take another deep seat all over again for Sami Zayn versus Kevin Owens for the NXT title. I saw Zayn and Owens wrestle each other in a last man standing match at Showdown in the Sun in Fort Lauderdale, Florida a few years ago. They had just a fantastic match, and if you think for 1 minute they're not going to go out there and have another fantastic match next week, you're crazy. I'm sorry. It is what it is. They're just going to have just a fantastic, over-the-top, amazing match. I don't think it's going to have a finish. It might be a DQ, might be a count-out, whatever, but there's not going to be a decisive win. I doubt it because I don't think they're going to take the belt off Zayn this soon after making such a big deal, after building him up for 1.5 years for that title win. And at the same time, it's way too early to beat Owens. They booked themselves a match and booked it for a title match, and now I can't imagine there being a finish. And Adrian Neville is probably going to beat Finn Balor if the only way I could possibly see Balor winning is if just Zayn beats Owens outright and they decide to just go in a different direction with Zayn defending next. But I don't think the title match is going to have a conclusive finish, and I think Neville's going to be involved, and they're going to build to that three-way I thought was going to happen this month, but it's probably going to happen in April or May. So that's it for the NXT audio update. I went about 18 minutes, and dang, I can't shut up sometimes, can I? Thank you all for listening. Next week again, Wrestling Outsiders podcast takes over AngryMarks.com for the NXT TakeOver Rivals show. And of course, like I said, you can listen to all of our past shows, Blog Talk Radio /Wrestling Outsiders. And until next week, thank you all for listening. And I'm going to play the theme of The Love of My Life as we wrap things up tonight. And I'll see you all again next Wednesday night /Thursday morning.